Was the latest Halo entry a dud, or did players come out to finish the fight? Let's find out if anyone played Halo Infinite's campaign. Everyone welcome, I am Oldbit, and this is Did Anyone Play, a series where we investigate, analyze, and determine the truth about how much gamers have truly played and completed games. How do we do this? We use trophy and achievement milestones within games, and then compare those results to our huge gaming database to evaluate and rank games compared to the rest of the industry. Using objective data and statistical comparisons, we can draw conclusions. We aren't reviewing the game in a traditional sense. Our goal is to provide analysis that can be better used to understand player behavior, while ignoring game sales and hype to ensure we see reality as it truly is. Please drop a like or a sub to the channel if you want more of these types of videos. We're just starting out, so anything you can do is very much appreciated, and a quick spoiler warning as we may be talking about some elements of late game progression. So let's find out if anyone actually played Halo Infinite's campaign on Xbox and Steam. Remember that all percentages we'll be talking about here come from the total number of players that have actually launched and or played the game, not bought the game. So these results are a full reflection on how gamers played Halo Infinite. One other area of fun we can look at before we get into the campaign results. Halo Infinite is obviously also a multiplayer game, and what you are going to see here is a game struggling with its dual identity. Multiplayer was free, but the campaign was a full-priced experience for those not on Game Pass. I wanted to give some context to the multiplayer results as well, since we normally don't do that. Some of the earliest multiplayer challenges that can be done are called Clocking In, which is completing a daily mission, or Humble Beginnings, which is finishing one level of a battle pass. For Steam, it was 66% and 47% respectively. For Xbox, it was 48% and 34% respectively. Multiplayer is a large draw for this game, but that being said, neither platform kept half of the players around for just one level of a battle pass. And for Xbox, only a third of players did it. The struggle was real, and future multiplayer milestones show worse retention, but that's not our focus today. Hopefully that gives you some context. Now on to the campaign. The first milestone that players will likely reach is called First Contact. This milestone is achieved once a player finishes the first chapter of the main campaign. So how many players made it to this first early milestone for Halo Infinite? On Steam, 12.4% of players completed the first chapter. Xbox saw 26.9% of players do this. And that seems awful, and it kinda is. This is the flagship IP for Xbox, and you would think it would be a stronger draw. Here's a quick look in graph form with the database average for Milestone 1. I don't even need to explain this, it's all bad. And I'm going to be honest, there's not much chance of recovery. It's going to be a bloodbath going forward no matter what. The key is how many gamers Halo holds on to as we progress. So what is Halo Infinite? It's a single and multiplayer first-person shooter that puts you into the role of the quintessential Master Chief. The campaign has Master Chief fighting against a mercenary organization called the Banished. As I said earlier, the multiplayer portion of Halo Infinite is free to play, but the campaign had to be purchased. The game is set on Zeta Halo, which acts as an open world for the player to traverse. There were many issues and delays during development, but Halo came out strong when it was finished. It was developed by 343 Industries and published by Xbox Game Studios. Halo Infinite released on December 8th of 2021. The second milestone all players would likely reach is called Ascension. This is awarded after a player finishes Chapter 2. How many players made it here in Halo Infinite? Steam has 11.7% of players achieving this, and Xbox is at 22.7%. So we've hit our first bit of good news, as the player retention here is very solid. Perhaps Halo can pull this one out. It's always good to understand the competition a game was up against when it launched. What was happening around December 8th of 2021 in the gaming world? Well, titles like Serious Sam 4, Battlefield 2042, and The Gunk came out around this time on the platforms. Looking at Google Trends here, we can see that Halo Infinite in Blue was strong at the time of release, but Battlefield 2042 was a solid match for hype early on but dropped off. So it's clear that the hype was high for Halo Infinite and the competition was average as well. We like to pick a mid-game marker for our third milestone. For Halo Infinite, we chose Unearthed. This was awarded for completing Chapter 6 of the main campaign. How many players reached this milestone? Steam has kept 9.2% of players and Xbox has 15.4%. Steam has another very strong hold, but Xbox loses a little ground here as the decline starts to accelerate a bit. How did Halo Infinite do with critics? Metacritic for Xbox rates it at a 87 out of 100, and PC received an 80 out of 100. On Steam, users have rated it mixed for all reviews, with only 4,400 reviews. There are a lot more reviews for the multiplayer, but only 4,400 for the campaign. Recent reviews have also been mostly negative. Halo Infinite had strong reviews when it came out. It wasn't the most heralded campaign we've ever seen, but it wasn't panned by critics either. I think we can say reception was average to good for Halo Infinite. The most important milestone is our fourth one. This is for completing the main objective and what we'll ultimately base our final ranking on. It definitely shows how many players finished the game and truly played Halo Infinite's campaign. This milestone is called Set a Fire in Your Heart, and it's awarded when a player completes the campaign no matter the difficulty. Where does Halo Infinite end up on the different platforms? On Steam, 6.6% of players completed the game, and for Xbox it was 9.5%. Let's pause here since we've reached the end of the game. We want to check the percentage of players that quit each platform after making it through the first milestone but failing to reach game completion. Here our platforms are doing better than the database average. We can see that Steam performed better than Xbox, but this can be a bit deceiving. As a result of the large loss of players even before reaching milestone 1, there are far less to lose on Steam. So while the data is accurate, the story it tells could mislead you into thinking Steam had actually done better overall. Finally, to get a feel for how the completionist treated this game, the rare milestone 5 chosen for Halo Infinite is called Rubicon Protocol. This milestone can be achieved if the player unlocks all the Spartan audio logs in the campaign. For Steam, we see that 0.8% of players actually accomplished this, and on Xbox it was 0.6% of players. Now let's see the full picture. Here are the raw milestones for our platforms for Halo Infinite, with the industry averages for each milestone in gray for comparison purposes. Let's get into it. So the drop off the cliff at the start before even hitting milestone 1 is a bad look unless you're looking for that kind of roller coaster ride. But after milestone 1, things actually look pretty good. The slope's shallow decline shows that the overall player retention is decent even if the total amount of players is very low. Xbox is the strongest platform, which makes sense, but no matter how we look at it, the campaign for Xbox's flagship IP is always showing way under the industry average, and that's not a great look. So this is our final tally for milestones, but now let's see how the game stacks up against all other games in our database and find out if anyone truly played Halo Infinite's campaign. We use milestone 4 as our ultimate ranking target. Here are the results for each platform for milestone 4 once again. It's time to reveal the final rank Halo Infinite has in our database. Here we go. Steam is a 1 out of 10 and Xbox is a 2 out of 10. Not shocking at this point, but almost no one played Halo Infinite's campaign on Steam, and very few played it even on Xbox. This is a tragic result for a game with Halo in the title. So those are the industry rankings for Halo Infinite, but our database is able to give us other comparisons as well. Let's break it down. Here we can show the breakdown for Halo Infinite across class, genre, review score, and game length. Please keep in mind that because we are comparing data across smaller subsets, the statistical power for these rankings are far weaker than our overall industry ranking. Starting off with class comparison, Halo Infinite is a AAA game. So ranking it compared to all other AAA contemporaries, we see that the results are actually worse. Steam is now a 0 and Xbox is a 1. Gamers played it even less compared to other AAA titles. Alright, well how about genre? We have classified Halo Infinite as a first-person shooter. Compared to other games in that genre, we see that it ranks 1 on Steam and 2 on Xbox. No change from the industry ranking there, and very low performance compared to other FPS titles. Next is ranking based on reviews. The scores for Halo Infinite put it in the category with games that have scored in the 80s for OpenCritic. The review ranking compared to other similar reviewed games has Steam at a 0 and Xbox at a 1. Halo Infinite performs even worse than the industry average here. Lastly is ranking based on average game completion length. Halo Infinite is in the 11 to 25 hours range. Rankings compared to similar length games has Halo Infinite rank on Steam as a 1 and Xbox at a 2. No change compared to the industry ranking. So no matter how we look at Halo Infinite results, there is no bright spot. So those are the rankings, but let's see if we can tease out some other observations by looking at these results in different ways. It's time for the deep dive. Let's start with progressive player loss. Each milestone shows how many players have stopped playing the game at that particular point. The huge loss at milestone 1 is clearly apparent, but what we do see is that Steam has less players drop off at later stages. Xbox does better, but does lose more because they have more left to lose. Moving on, we can look at milestone player retention. This calculation only takes into account player population loss as a percentage compared to the previous milestone. Milestone 1 again is a big one, and it looks nearly on par with the kind of loss we see for rare milestones. But Milestone 2 retention is strong with weaker but decent holds for Milestone 3 and 4. How about completionists? How did the rarest milestone shake out on the different platforms? Steam's result is the best, at almost 60%, and Xbox taking up the rest. It's interesting that Steam, while doing worst at every other milestone, came out on top on the rare milestones. It could be another indication that achievement hunting is just not a big thing on Xbox, even though that platform originated the concept. Finally, we check on early versus late game retention. When you read a chart like this, the best performers are further away from the center of the circle. Early game, Xbox is leading, but the numbers aren't great. End game loss, Steam did the best, but had the least amount of players left to lose. Completionist loss was again in Steam's favor, with Xbox a close second. Let's take one final look at all the platforms and their Milestone 4 results, but this time we'll show you the full percent rank within our database. This is to give you a detailed view of how the rankings played out. Use this data as you will. Let's wrap this up. So what are our major takeaways from all the data? I never expected Halo Infinite's campaign to do so poorly. Hardly anyone played this game for that story experience. The players that did engage with it seemed to hold on through it decently, but the question remains how many tried it and quit even before completing the first chapter, or how many only played multiplayer and never considered the campaign at all. It begs the question, does a Halo campaign even resonate with today's gamers, or maybe the hook wasn't there to bring people in to play the game? It's also possible that the split release hurt the game. The free-to-play multiplayer launch was front and center, and then the campaign launch followed up a few weeks later. And the campaign had to be purchased, and it might have felt like a hefty price when multiplayer was free. I could definitely see players getting soured on the campaign because of that. Also, when we break down some of the subcategories, we see nothing that indicates strength for Halo Infinite. No matter how we look at it, based on class, genre, length, or review score, Halo Infinite is at the bottom of the rankings no matter what. That tells us that at its core, Halo Infinite's campaign was ignored or rejected by those who played Halo even a little bit. Finally, we should revisit multiplayer in Halo Infinite again. Earlier, I gave you some initial numbers for Halo Infinite multiplayer, but we can look at it again, this time with a milestone we might consider an endpoint for it. It's called Battle Tested, and players achieve this by fully completing one Battle Pass. This would show player dedication and agency towards a longer-term multiplayer goal. What do we see when we look at these results? Steam is at a 4.5%, and Xbox is at 3.6%. These are lower than the percentages we see for finishing the main campaign, so even multiplayer is not a saving grace in this case. Halo is an industry icon, and that's why these results are so disappointing. No matter how you feel about Halo Infinite as a game, there is no denying that this game failed to capture gamers. From Halo having must-play campaigns to producing an experience that hardly anyone is interested in engaging with is a bad look. Now, I'm confident that they can turn this around, and look forward to the next Halo and make the adjustments that are necessary. However, the developers need to ensure they are learning the right lessons from Halo Infinite's mistakes. And that's a wrap. Hopefully you all found this data interesting, and we all learned a little bit more about our gaming world today, and Halo Infinite in particular. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to do all the YouTube support stuff. Give us a like or a sub if you haven't already. I'd love to read any comments you have down below. What conclusions do you all take from this data? And of course, feel free to suggest the next game we should look at to determine if anyone played it. Until then, take care of yourself and each other.